Welcome to Framework, the podcast that makes the NIST cybersecurity framework practical, engaging, and accessible. Whether you're a cybersecurity professional, business leader, or simply curious about how organizations defend against cyber threats, this series is for you. This podcast is inspired by a comprehensive guide to the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0, a best-selling resource written by cybersecurity expert Dr. Jason Edwards and trusted by professionals worldwide. In each episode, we'll leverage a few insights from Jason's extensive book to dive deep into CSF 2.0, unpacking every function, category, and subcategory with real-world applications you can immediately use. If you're enjoying this episode and want to learn more, head over to cyberauthor.me to grab your copy of the book and access additional resources to enhance your cybersecurity journey. You can also visit baremetalcyber.com, where over 2 million people last year explored expert insights, articles, and practical tools across a wide range of cybersecurity topics. ID.AM-08 managing assets across their life cycle. ID.AM-08 ensures that organizations establish structured processes for tracking, securing, and managing assets throughout their entire life cycle, from acquisition to decommissioning, to maintain cybersecurity resilience and regulatory compliance. This subcategory belongs to the Identify function within the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework, version 2.0, emphasizing that assets, including hardware, software, and data, must be continuously monitored and managed to prevent security vulnerabilities, data breaches, and compliance failures. Without structured lifecycle management, organizations risk failing to track assets properly, leaving obsolete systems vulnerable to cyber threats, and lacking visibility into asset ownership, usage, and security status. By implementing structured asset lifecycle management, organizations ensure that all enterprise assets are accounted for, regularly assessed for security risks, and decommissioned securely when they reach the end of their useful life. A structured approach to asset management enables organizations to identify critical assets, apply appropriate security controls, and mitigate risks associated with aging infrastructure, unpatched software, and outdated data storage solutions. Organizations that develop clear asset lifecycle policies, implement automated tracking tools, and integrate asset management into cybersecurity governance improve their ability to reduce data loss risks, prevent unauthorized access to retired systems, and maintain compliance with cybersecurity regulation. Multiple stakeholders play a role in managing assets across their life cycle. Cybersecurity and IT asset management teams are responsible for tracking hardware and software from acquisition to disposal, ensuring that security measures are maintained throughout an asset's lifespan. Procurement and finance teams ensure that asset lifecycle costs, licensing agreements, and maintenance contracts align with security policies and operational needs. Compliance and risk management teams ensure that asset lifecycle management processes align with regulatory frameworks and data protection laws, preventing security lapses related to outdated systems. Asset lifecycle management is implemented through structured asset tracking systems, continuous security assessments, and secure disposal procedures. This includes automated asset discovery and monitoring tools, risk-based security updates for active assets, and documented procedures for decommissioning outdated devices and software securely. Organizations that fail to manage assets across their lifecycle effectively risk exposing sensitive data through improperly retired hardware, running unsupported software with unpatched vulnerabilities, and losing visibility into security risks associated with aging infrastructure. Several key terms define asset lifecycle management and its role in cybersecurity governance. Asset acquisition and registration ensures that organizations log all newly acquired assets, assigning ownership and tracking security requirements from the start. Security maintenance and patch management ensures that all assets receive necessary updates, security patches, and compliance enforcement throughout their operational lifespan. End-of-life EOL and decommissioning procedures ensure that organizations retire assets securely, preventing unauthorized access or data exposure. Regulatory compliance for asset lifecycle management mandates that organizations align asset tracking and disposal policies with industry-specific cybersecurity laws and best practices. Asset repurposing and recycling security ensures that organizations apply strict security measures when reusing, refurbishing, or disposing of retired assets. Challenges in managing assets across their life cycle often lead to incomplete asset tracking, weak enforcement of security updates, and failure to properly retire and dispose of decommissioned assets. One common issue is failure to track legacy systems, where organizations continue to operate outdated infrastructure without visibility into security risks, increasing exposure to cyber threats. Another issue is improper asset disposal, where organizations fail to wipe sensitive data from retired devices, leading to unauthorized access and data leakage. Some organizations mistakenly believe that asset management is only necessary for hardware, without recognizing that software, cloud resources, and digital data also require structured lifecycle governance. When organizations implement structured asset lifecycle management, they enhance cybersecurity resilience, improve regulatory compliance, and ensure that enterprise infrastructure remains secure and well-maintained. A structured asset lifecycle framework ensures that hardware, software, and data are continuously monitored, maintained, and retired securely, reducing cybersecurity risks and optimizing resource management. Organizations that implement structured asset lifecycle tracking policies, enforce risk-based security controls, and integrate asset management into enterprise cybersecurity strategies develop a comprehensive security framework that strengthens asset resilience and reduces cybersecurity risks proactively. Organizations that fail to manage assets across their life cycle effectively face significant cybersecurity, operational, and compliance risks. Without structured asset lifecycle management, businesses risk losing visibility into outdated or decommissioned systems, exposing sensitive data through improper disposal, and allowing unpatched or unsupported software to remain in use, creating security vulnerabilities. A common issue is failure to track asset retirement, where organizations decommission hardware but neglect to remove associated network access, credentials, or stored data, increasing the risk of unauthorized access. Another major challenge is lack of integration between asset lifecycle management and security policies, where organizations procure new technology without incorporating it into asset tracking and risk assessment processes, leading to gaps in cybersecurity enforcement. By implementing structured asset lifecycle management, organizations ensure that all assets are tracked from acquisition to disposal, security controls remain enforced throughout an asset's lifespan, and outdated or unsupported technologies are properly decommissioned. A well-defined asset lifecycle management framework improves visibility into infrastructure security, reduces the likelihood of data exposure, and helps prevent operational disruptions caused by aging systems. Organizations that deploy automated asset tracking solutions, enforce structured asset lifecycle policies, and integrate lifecycle management with cybersecurity risk assessment strategies improve their ability to detect, prevent, and mitigate cybersecurity risks associated with outdated or improperly managed assets. At the partial tier, organizations lack structured asset lifecycle management processes, leading to inconsistent asset tracking, unmonitored security risks, and weak enforcement of decommissioning procedures. Asset management is handled reactively, with organizations only addressing lifecycle security concerns after an asset incident occurs. A small business at this level may fail to track employee laptops and company-owned mobile devices, leading to unmanaged endpoints that could be exploited for unauthorized access. At the risk-informed tier, organizations begin to develop structured asset lifecycle policies, ensuring that high-risk assets are identified and monitored more closely. However, lifecycle management efforts may still be limited, with inconsistent application of decommissioning and disposal procedures across different asset types. A mid-size healthcare provider at this level may track the acquisition and maintenance of medical devices but fail to implement formalized disposal procedures, leaving retired systems vulnerable to data extraction risks. At the repeatable tier, organizations implement a fully structured asset lifecycle framework, ensuring that all enterprise assets are continuously monitored, maintenance and updates are applied consistently, and decommissioning procedures are securely enforced. Asset security governance is formalized, with leadership actively involved in reviewing, lifecycle tracking policies, and ensuring that security controls align with enterprise risk management strategies. A multinational financial institution at this stage may require all banking infrastructure, cloud-based services, and customer data storage systems to follow structured acquisition, maintenance, and secure disposal processes to maintain regulatory compliance and cybersecurity resilience. At the adaptive tier, organizations employ AI-driven asset tracking platforms, predictive cybersecurity risk modeling, and automated lifecycle enforcement solutions to dynamically adjust asset management policies based on evolving cybersecurity threats. Asset lifecycle security management is fully integrated into enterprise cybersecurity governance, ensuring that risk-based asset decommissioning, automated patching, and proactive end-of-life (EOL) assessments remain continuously optimized. A global cloud services provider at this level may use AI-powered asset intelligence to predict when systems require updates, dynamically adjust security configurations based on usage patterns, and enforce automated decommissioning protocols for retiring infrastructure. Managing assets across their lifecycle aligns with multiple controls in the National Institute of Standards and Technology Special Publication 800-53, ensuring that organizations implement structured asset tracking frameworks and dynamic cybersecurity risk mitigation models. One key control is MA-4, system maintenance, which requires organizations to implement structured maintenance procedures to ensure that all hardware and software assets remain secure and operational throughout their lifecycle. A global telecommunications provider implementing this control may deploy automated patch management systems to continuously update critical networking infrastructure, reducing exposure to security vulnerabilities. Another key control is MP-6, media sanitization, which mandates that organizations securely erase data from decommissioned assets before disposal, ensuring that sensitive information does not remain accessible after retirement. A financial institution implementing this control may enforce mandatory encryption and data wiping procedures for all retired servers and employee devices, preventing unauthorized data recovery from disposed hardware. Managing assets across their life cycle also aligns with SC-18 Mobile Code, which requires organizations to ensure that all software and firmware used within enterprise environments is properly managed, updated, and decommissioned to prevent security vulnerabilities associated with outdated or unsupported technologies. This control ensures that organizations monitor the entire life cycle of software-based assets, including applications, scripts, and embedded system firmware, to prevent the use of unpatched or deprecated software that could be exploited by cyber threats. A global technology firm implementing this control may enforce automated software patching policies, ensuring that all enterprise applications receive security updates and are retired when they reach end-of-life status. These controls can be adapted based on organizational size, industry, and cybersecurity maturity. A small business may implement basic asset lifecycle tracking measures, ensuring that company-owned laptops, mobile devices, and software licenses are documented and updated as needed. A large enterprise may deploy AI-driven asset lifecycle management platforms, predictive maintenance scheduling tools, and automated decommissioning protocols to ensure that hardware, software, and cloud-based services remain continuously monitored and retired securely. Organizations in highly regulated industries such as financial services, healthcare, and critical infrastructure may require legally mandated asset tracking audits, continuous system maintenance documentation, and strict asset disposal procedures to ensure compliance with industry cybersecurity regulations. Auditors assess asset lifecycle management by reviewing whether organizations have structured, documented, and continuously enforced asset tracking frameworks. They evaluate whether organizations implement structured asset monitoring models, enforce risk-based maintenance and decommissioning policies, and integrate asset lifecycle methodologies into enterprise-wide cybersecurity governance strategies. If an organization fails to manage assets effectively throughout their lifecycle, auditors may issue findings highlighting gaps in asset security tracking, weak enforcement of lifecycle maintenance policies, and failure to align asset decommissioning procedures with enterprise cybersecurity risk mitigation strategies. To verify compliance, auditors seek specific types of evidence. Asset lifecycle documentation and structured inventory tracking reports demonstrate that organizations formally define and enforce structured asset management governance models. System maintenance, compliance records, and risk-based asset decommissioning audits provide insights into whether organizations proactively monitor asset security performance and refine lifecycle policies based on real-time cybersecurity risk intelligence. Incident response evaluations related to outdated or improperly decommissioned assets and third-party asset disposal risk mitigation reports show whether organizations effectively track and secure enterprise infrastructure, ensuring that asset lifecycle management remains continuously enforced. A compliance success scenario could involve a global pharmaceutical company that undergoes an audit and provides evidence that asset lifecycle management processes are fully integrated into enterprise cybersecurity governance, ensuring that research databases, laboratory systems, and manufacturing infrastructure are continuously monitored, maintained, and securely retired when no longer needed. Auditors confirm that hardware, software, and data assets are systematically managed. Cybersecurity protections are dynamically adjusted based on lifecycle stages, and enterprise-wide security policies align with asset lifecycle governance requirements. In contrast, an organization that fails to implement structured asset lifecycle frameworks, neglects risk-based decommissioning enforcement, or lacks formalized asset maintenance tracking models may receive audit findings for poor asset security management, weak cybersecurity risk mitigation, and failure to align asset lifecycle protection strategies with regulatory compliance mandates. Organizations face multiple barriers in ensuring that asset lifecycle management remains continuous and effective. One major challenge is lack of automation in asset tracking, where organizations fail to implement real-time asset monitoring tools, leading to outdated or incomplete inventory records. Another challenge is failure to align asset lifecycle management policies with evolving cybersecurity threats, where organizations do not update asset tracking models based on new risk intelligence, increasing exposure to security vulnerabilities in aging systems. A final challenge is over-reliance on manual asset decommissioning models, where organizations apply static asset retirement processes instead of dynamically adjusting cybersecurity protections based on real-time asset usage and risk assessment. Organizations can overcome these barriers by developing structured asset lifecycle management frameworks, ensuring that cybersecurity protections remain continuously optimized, and integrating real-time asset risk assessments into enterprise-wide cybersecurity governance strategies. Investing in automated asset lifecycle tracking platforms, predictive cybersecurity risk modeling tools, and AI-driven asset maintenance solutions ensures that organizations dynamically assess, monitor, and refine asset management strategies in real time. Standardizing asset lifecycle governance methodologies across departments, subsidiaries, and external business partners ensures that asset security policies are consistently applied, reducing exposure to cybersecurity risks and strengthening enterprise-wide security resilience. By embedding asset lifecycle management into enterprise cybersecurity governance strategies, organizations enhance security accountability, improve regulatory compliance, and ensure sustainable asset risk management strategies across evolving cybersecurity landscapes. That wraps up today's discussion on framework. Don't stop here. Head over to cyberauthor.me to explore more cybersecurity topics and discover a best-selling book covering NIST and other critical cyber frameworks. Please like, rate, and review this episode on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, remember that knowledge is power.